Well, I would, first of all, I would like to say thank you for allowing us to perform this Cowboy Christmas program for y'all. But before we get started, let me just see if I can try to set the scene a little bit. See, the story you're about to hear takes place in a line cabin. And for those of you who don't know what a line cabin is, let me see if I can try to explain. You see, large ranches can easily be 100 square miles or 200 square miles, if not bigger. So in order to effectively work the land and operate, the ranches are divided up into sections. And each section has a cabin built on it for the cowboys to live in year-round and work that area. And it is in one of these cabins that our story takes place. Now imagine, if you will, that we, right now, are in one of those cabins. As you look around, you can clearly see that this cabin is home to 3 to 5 cowboys throughout most of the year. But after the fall work is over, most of the cowboys are sent home to be with their families until spring work begins. Now this cabin that was home to 3 to 5 is now home to one lone cowboy. Now, it's his duty to look after the livestock in his area, to go out and break the ice so that the animals can drink, put out hay when necessary, and just generally keep an eye on things. It is a difficult and a very lonely job, but I believe our cowboy friend has a story to tell us about that.
Now you get back from there, you smelly dog. Anybody's gonna chase rabbits and fight with a skunk. We ought to be helping these short cattle ain't gonna sleep on my fire tonight. Goodness gracious, dog, you stink. Oh, my goodness. Well, look at here. Look at here, we got company. Now I know what that means. That means this is getting close to Christmas, ain't it? Oh, ain't Christmas the most wonderful time of the year? Family, friends, get-togethers, presents, good things to eat. Why, it don't get no gooder than Christmas, do it? But you know, for some folks what ain't got no family or separated from them by one means or another, Christmas can be an awful hard old lonesome time of the year. I'm going to tell y'all about a Christmas I had a few years ago. Well, it seems like what little family I'd had, they'd either gone on or moved on. Well, I was faced with the prospect of my first Christmas alone. I didn't really think much about it there at first. The only thing I'd done different, I signed on with the boss to work on through the winter months. Let them young hands, them fellers what had places to go and people to be with, let them be off. Tell you the truth, that's kind of like being up here in this old cabin by myself. It was quiet, peaceful. Wasn't all that hoorahing and goosing and grabbing that goes on when the big crew's in. Well, I was having a really good time till along about 2 weeks before Christmas. And then it got to working on me that I was going to be alone at Christmas. In fact, it got to working on me so hard that finally I had to say something about it. So one night I did. I was right over there doing my supper dishes. I just reared back and cut loose, and I said, now, Lord, look at here. Here we are coming up on what ought to be the happiest time of year, celebrating the birth of your son. I'm as blue as a wet saddle blanket, and that ain't right, and ought to be something you can do about it. Well, now y'all may think I'm crazy. And if you do, you ain't the first one to plow that road. But there was a voice filled this room just as plain as I'm talking to you today. And that voice said, my son, I'm going to be your Christmas guest. Now, you think that won't knock your hat in the creek, loosen your cinch strap, put slack in your rope all in one jump? You're mistaken. I just stood there blinking and said, imagine that. The masters are coming here for Christmas. I get to serve the master on Christmas Day because he's coming here. Why, the more I thought about it, the more excited I got. Directly, I was walking around this whole place foot off the ground. Wonder I didn't bump my head on the rafters. Just thinking, he's coming here and it's going to be my day to get to serve the master. Well, after a little bit, I kind of calmed down, got my feet back on the ground, and I got to looking around this old place and I said, you know, this old cabin ain't fitting to serve the master. I better clean it up a mite. I'll start on that in a day or two. And I looked around a little more and I decided I better not wait a day or two. So right then, right there, I fell into cleaning on this old cabin. And I want y'all to know, 2 days and 3 trips to the dump later, this old place looked better than it ever looked before. And better than it's ever looked since, if you don't know the rest of that story. Well, right after that, I was out making my rounds one day, and I swung down by headquarters, went in that old storeroom that the boss lets us cowboys use for our personal belongings, and I dug around in there until I found that old trunk of mine. I bet every one of you's got a trunk like that. It's that trunk full of memories. Memories too precious to part with, too tender to keep out in the open all the time. Well, down in the bottom of that trunk full of memories, I found a few pieces of fine china from many years and a lifetime ago. There was some fancy silverware in there with it. Why, there was even some of them linen napkins. What had them silver napkin rings wrapped around? Just everything it'd take to set a place fit to serve the master, you see. Well, while I was down there at the headquarters, I eased over to the big house and went in the kitchen door. I had me a talk with Cookie, and I asked her for an idea or two on what a feller might fix in the line camp if he had a special guest to come. Oh, she fell into giving me all kinds of directions and instructions and recipes and suggestions and pointers, but the whole time she was just a digging and a gouging, just like a badger down a gopher hole. She was trying to figure out who I had coming for Christmas. I think she thought I had a lady friend coming. Well, how do you explain to somebody that the master's coming to your place for Christmas? I ain't know what to tell her. I let her go on thinking whatever she wanted to think. She did promise to fix me one of her fancy Christmas pies. Pick it up on Christmas Eve. Now, folks, y'all ain't never lived unless you've had one of Cookie's Christmas pies. They are larkin' good. Well, the next days just drug by, just slower than molasses on a cold morning. I thought Christmas was never going to get there. Why, there wasn't a kid in 5 counties more anxious for Christmas than I was. Because it was going to be my day to get to serve the master. Well, finally, the big day arrived. Oh, I was up way before the sun. Saddled my pony, made what rounds just had to be made, and I was back at the cabin by good light. I wanted to make sure that I was there and had everything set just right for when the master arrived. Well, long up before mid-morning, there was a knock at the door. Well, I jumped like I'd been scalded, and I rushed over there to the door, just anxious to see the master's face, look him in the eye, shake his hand, tell him howdy. But when I opened the door, I was disappointed. Because instead of seeing the face of the master, I was looking down at the top of a little blonde head. There was a little girl standing at my door, shivering and crying. Oh, I knew who she was. She's the granddaughter of the fellow that runs the place over the east of here. Now, what she's doing at my door, I didn't know, but I brought her in and I wrapped a blanket around her and I sat her down by the fire over there. She got to telling me that she and her grandpa had been out checking on some heifers that were due to calve, and they was going to cut a Christmas tree. Of course, they already had a Christmas tree in the house, you know, but she'd been out to the barn with him the night before and seen that there wasn't a Christmas tree in the barn for the horses and such. And well, little girls, grandpas, you get it. Well, in her excitement to pick out just the right tree in that big old cedar draw that separates the two places, she got turned around. She come up on the west side instead of the east side. She didn't know where she was, so she come to the nearest smoke. Well, I thought that was pretty smart of that little girl. But I noticed the whole time she was talking to me, she was eyeballing that fancy Christmas pie over there on the table. Well, it was a big old pie. It wasn't going to be but the two of us later on. I didn't figure the master would mind sharing his pie with that little girl. So I cut her a slice of that pie and I sat her down at the table. While she was eating her pie, well, I went back out and saddled up my pony again. When she got through, well, I put the little girl and blanket and all on the saddle in front of me, and we struck out to the east. Oh, we hadn't gone more than a couple of miles, and we come across the whole Bar L crew, just frantically searching for this little lost girl. Her mama was out there, and of all the hugging and the squalling and carrying on, you ain't never heard the like of it. Her mama hugged everybody there, including me, and I thought she was going to hug my horse. She wanted us to come have Christmas with them. I said, well, thank you, ma'am, but I got company coming, I got to get on back. Well, I got away from them as quick as I could and still be neighborly. But I was just scared to death I was going to miss the master. Well, me and that pony got out of earshot of them. It didn't take us long to get back now. We lit a shut. But got back to the cabin. Everything was just like we'd left it. No fresh tracks in the snow, nothing. When I put my pony up, cleaned up that little bit of dishes, and in the morning got finished, there was another knock at the door. I said, this is it. I rushed over there to the door, just anxious to see the master's face, to look him in the eye and shake his hand, tell him howdy. But for the second time that day when I opened the door, I was disappointed. Because this time, instead of seeing the face of the master, there was a young man standing at my door. Now, folks, he was a hard-looking sight. He didn't have no coat on, had a ragged shirt, wore out breeches, what was left of a pair of them tennis shoe things on his feet. Folks, he just stood there looking a long way from his last hot meal. Well, I couldn't turn him away, even if I had company coming. So I brought him in, I sat him down at the table. I'd fixed plenty of food, or at least I thought I had. That young fellow was short on a lot of things when he got to my door, but appetite wasn't one of them. He knew how to make a hand at the table. But while he was eating his fill and telling me his story, well, I got to looking at him. I got to noticing what size he was. I was thinking back when I cleaned out this old cabin, I came across a pair of blue jeans of mine that, well, they just didn't fit around my belly as good as they used to. I guess it's that hot water they were washed in. And there was no shirt kind of the same way. Hanging over there on the peg in the corner was an old coat, and under it a pair of run-over-to-heel boots. They've been hanging in that corner since I come to work on this ranch. Nobody ever claimed them. Well, it wasn't much of a rig, but it was a sight better than he rode in. And he thanked me, and he was embarrassed that he couldn't pay me. I said, don't worry about it. I said, Merry Christmas. I said, as you travel on south, I said, bear off to the west. I said, you'll hit ranch headquarters about 15 miles. And catch the boss in good mood. He might put you on for a week or two's work. You never know about him. Well, he went on his way, and it was getting on up in the afternoon. And the master still hadn't arrived. And I was kind of worried about that, but I got to thinking, he probably had some other folks that he needed to stop and howdy with along the way. So I got everything cleaned up and set back like it ought to be. About the time I got finished, there was another knock at the door, and I jumped and run over there. I said, this is it. Three's a charm. There ain't 3 knocks at this door all year, much less than one day. Gotta be him. But for the third time that day when I opened the door, I was disappointed. Because this time, instead of seeing the face of the master, there at my door stands an old woman with a long, sad look on her face. Folks, she looked like she could bust out in a boo-hoo at the drop of a hat. I knew who she was. She was an old widow woman that lived down there in a shotgun shack not far from headquarters. She was out gathering firewood to heat her house with, and her old car had quit. Here she was 15 miles from home. It was nigh on to dark. She didn't know what she was going to do. Well, I sat her down by the fire and poured her some coffee. There was still plenty of that pie, so I cut her a little piece of that pie. I walked down there to look at her old car. Now, folks, I ain't no mechanic. But it didn't take no mechanic none at all to figure out. That old car had been on its last leg. It fell off of it. Well, not knowing what else to do, I came up to the barn and I got that old truck cranked. The boss, he's got a truck at every line camp on this ranch. I don't usually have much use for them, but I was sure proud it was there that day. But got the old truck, and I pulled down there by her car, and I throwed over her little jag of firewood she'd gathered. And on the back end of that truck, it sure didn't mount up to much wood. But when I pulled up by the cabin, well, there was that great old big stack of firewood out there that we'd laid in for the winter. It was more than I was going to need. So I just loaded up the truck, and I told her, I said, now you drive this old truck home. Don't be in a big rush to unload it, but whenever you get it unloaded, just park it down at headquarters. Somebody bring it back up here in a week or so. Oh, she thanked me, and she hugged my neck. She wanted to do something for me. I did let her take a couple of shirts of mine that needed mending, because I just ain't no hand with needle and thread. But by the time she left, it was good dark. The master still hadn't arrived. So I lit a lantern, put it out there on the porch, got everything cleaned up the way I wanted it to be, and I sat down to wait for the master to arrive. Well, I guess while I was waiting, I must have fell asleep. Because when I woke up, it was way yonder after midnight, and I realized Christmas had come and gone, and the master had never arrived. Well, I was disappointed, but there wasn't anything I could do about it. So I just started putting away the food, packing up them fancy dishes and stuff to put back in the trunk. The whole time I'm just wondering, what in the world happened? Why didn't he show up? Well, finally I wondered about it as long as I could, and I said, now Lord, look here. I thought you said you was going to be my Christmas gift. I got everything ready for you. I was here all day except that one little time I took that little girl home. I said, you never showed up. Well, that same voice that I'd heard a few weeks before filled this room again. And that voice said, my son, I kept my word. I was your Christmas gift. Because 3 times I knocked at your door. 3 times I found the warmth of a friend. For you see, I was that little girl that was lost and you took her home. I was that young man that you fed and clothed. I was that old woman that you gave her a way to heat her home and a way to get home. He said, you served me well. Well, I had to think about that for a while, figure out what he was trying to say. But a fellow with a job like mine got plenty of time to think about things like that, looking at fine country over the ears of a good horse. I think I got it figured out, what he was trying to tell me, and I want to run it past you. So shake out a catch, Luke, because here it comes. The way I'm seeing it, what he was trying to tell me was that the opportunity to serve the master comes around a whole lot more regular than we realize. It just don't come a-looking the way we expect it to look. So what I'm thinking is that it's our job to watch for those opportunities to serve the master when they come our way and do something about it when they get there. Lord, thank you. Thank you for loving us so much that you gave us that first, most precious Christmas gift, the gift of your Son. Lord, it's my prayer that you grant each person in this room the wisdom to recognize the opportunity to serve the master when it comes their way. And Lord, grant us the willingness and the wherewithal to act upon it. And by the way, Lord, happy birthday. Now, normally this would be the end of the program, and I'd say good night, God bless y'all, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas. But the best is yet to come. Because we got some young ladies and one young feller that are going to come up here and help us out, and we're going to sing just a few more Christmas songs before we call it quits. I'll tell you what, that's the best looking part of this show, isn't it? This is the Martin family, and they're amazing people, and they're so tremendously talented in so many aspects, and one of them is their beautiful voices. But if you ever read the Lampaston paper, you'll see a lot of their other talents being recognized with their cooking projects and their other activities for 4-H and all kinds of things. You see them all the time. But anyway, we're going to sing a few Christmas songs, and y'all sure would like y'all to join us. Our first one will be 541. 541, A Little Town of Bethlehem. Ready? Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie above thy deep and dreamless sleep. The silent stars go by, yet in thy dark street shine the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the year are met in thee tonight. carols here in a minute. Oh, way in a manger, no crib for his bed. The little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the sky looked down where he lay. The little Lord Jesus asleep on the hay. The cattle are lowing, the baby away, but little Lord Jesus, no crying he made. I love thee, Lord Jesus, look down from the sky and stay by my cradle till morning is nigh. Be near me, Lord Jesus, I ask thee to stay. Close by me forever and love me, I pray. Bless all the dear children in thy tender care, and fit us forever to live with thee there.
I apologize, I just put new strings on this thing and they're being a little cantankerous. Alright,
You ready now?
hey, I think so. What's next?
Silent night, you bet.
What page? What page?
Oh, I'm sorry, 5:30. Excuse me. I got sidetracked. That never happens with me. Squirrel, what? The silent night, holy night, all is gone, all is bright, round yon virgin, mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sweet next one's 533. Got that out before I forgot that.
Forgot what?
Huh?
What?
What you supposed to do? This next one's joy to the world. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him through. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ. Crop fields and floods, crop fields and plains. Repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. For he rules the world with truth and praise, and makes the nation through. The glories of his righteousness, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love.
Got silver bells.
I'm sorry?
I think we've got silver bells.
Well, we did. I must have flipped right on over. Okay, this one's not in the book, but the girls do such a pretty job of it. We kind of like it. We're going to do silver bell. You know it? Feel free to sing about it. Sling along with it. I think I saw it on City sidewalk, Christmas holidays fly. In the air there's a feeling of Christmas. Children laughing, people passing, meeting smile after smile. And on every street corner you hear silver bells, silver bells. It's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling, hear them ring. Soon it will be Christmas Day. City street light, even stoplight, blink of bright red and green. As the shoppers rush home with their gratitude. Hear the snow run, see the kids run. This is Santa's big scene. And above all this bustle, you hear silver bells, silver bells. It's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling, ring-a-ling, hear them ring. Soon it will be Christmas Day. Soon it will be Christmas Day. Now, normally at the end of our services here at Central Christian Church, we all stand up and get in a circle and hold hands and sing Blessed Be the Tie That Binds. Well, normal's so far removed, I don't know what normal is anymore. But instead of getting in a circle and holding hands, let's all stand together and we're going to sing We Wish You a Merry Christmas as our closing song. Ready?
Ready on what we pick?
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your King. thanks to the Martin family for making such a wonderful part of our program. And remember, we're having a Christmas Eve service at 5 o'clock Thursday night. You're welcome to join us.